China is buying up our country, while corrupt Democrats and rhino-type politicians in Washington have been spending trillions of dollars on the Green New Deal nonsense, foolish foreign wars, and providing lavish benefits to illegal aliens from all over the planet. China has been spending trillions of dollars to take over the crown jewels of the United States economy, and they are doing that. China is buying up our technology. They're buying up food supplies. They're buying up our farmland. They're buying up our minerals and natural resources. They're buying up our ports and shipping terminals. And with the help of a corrupt influence peddlers like the Biden crime family, China is even trying to buy up the pillars of the U.S. energy industry because, frankly, Biden and the group don't care about real energy. They only care about nonsense energy, energy that doesn't work, and it never will. While some are focused on China's purchases near power plants and military bases, the fact is we should be very concerned about all Chinese communist activity in the United States. As I have long said, economic security is national security. China does not allow American companies to take over their critical infrastructure, and America should not allow China to take over our critical infrastructure. I didn't allow it when I was president, and I won't allow it when we become president again. To protect our country, we need to enact aggressive new restrictions on Chinese ownership of any vital infrastructure in the United States, including energy, technology, telecommunications, farmland, natural resources, medical supplies, and other strategic national assets. We should stop all future Chinese purchases in these essential industries, and we should begin the process of forcing the Chinese to sell any current holdings that put our national security at risk. If we don't do this, the United States will be owned by China, which would make them very happy. When I'm president, I will ensure that America's future remains firmly in American hands, just as I did when I was president before. It'll happen again, and our country will be stronger than ever. Thank you.
So what's on tap for today, folks? Well, you just heard it right there. President Trump, that was a part of his speech that's been put into an advertisement for the presidential run for President Trump. And I thought it was absolutely pitch perfect. In other words, he is basically outlining what his number one commitment is going to be, and that is to rein in the Communist Party of China. In other words, he is basically outlining in that speech, in that couple of minutes there, all the dangers that China poses to America. It's to the economic prosperity of the country, to the national security interests of the United States, to the global emergence of China for the longest time as now being basically one of the superpowers out there, and how to not establish basically, let's say, political boundaries, national boundaries, foreign interest boundaries, and to basically tell China that, listen, we are not going to allow certain things that you've been doing to us. Technology theft, the South China Sea, encroaching upon other countries and other lands, in terms of what they're doing with their with their currency manipulation. Also outlining the members of the Biden crime family, basically saying it right out there. You've got President Trump saying the Biden crime family and what they have instituted in terms of allowing China to get away basically with almost anything. Get away with American goods and services, get away with American intellectual property, with American companies, buying up lands, buying up, whatever they can do, farmlands, basically getting control of interests in the United States of America. And I think President Trump summarily basically put that together and said, look, this has got to stop. It wasn't It wasn't a part when it was during his presidency, or it certainly wasn't to the extent that it's happened in the last year and a half or so, or 2 years under the Biden administration. And he's saying it certainly is not going to continue if he's duly elected again in 2024. So he put those steps out there. The other thing that we're going to cover and we're going to come to is the YouGov poll that was basically put out there that's showing President Trump doing extremely well, as we know, among Republicans, also among just United States citizens, self independence, and also even doing much better with Democrats. Now, one thing, folks, that I've said so many times is that polls, and we all know this, they're just a snapshot in time. It's like a Polaroid, basically, okay? And you're just taking snapshots. But what you're going to see here is that a lot of times people say, well, Nasser, when you put out these polls, it seems like you're only putting out the polls that are showing, President Trump or whoever it is on the Republican side, doing well. And we're never showing the polls in which he's doing bad. Well, you've got to understand which polls you're looking at, what is a format that they're utilizing, how many Republicans are in the poll, how many Democrats are in the poll. Then you want to take a look at where the independents are, and are they left-leaning independents? Are they right-leaning independents? Are they really, truly independents? Because most of the polls don't do that, and most of the polls out there are meant to shape public opinion right now, and we know where they're coming from. The majority are coming from the Democrats, majority are coming from the left. And so you're always going to see these things where it's basically showing. I mean, how do you show in one poll where President Trump shows that he's down by 15 or 20 within challengers from the Republican Party? And then 3 or 4 days later, you see another poll by another outfit, and you basically say that what the heck happened? He's up by 15 or 20 points. How did that happen in a matter of days or a matter of weeks? How does something like that happen? That's because they're manipulating and playing with the polls, folks. That's exactly what they're doing. So what we're going to do is we're going to get to all of that. We're going to go over the polls. It's even showing Speaker McCarthy. His numbers are rising. So like I said, it's a snapshot in time, but if you take a look at overall what's been going on, it's an unbelievable, great trend for President Trump. And we'll just have to basically see as these snapshots continue, as these polls continue in time. Let's see where we're at, and we'll analyze them as they basically come in. So let's go those polls right now. So as you see here, let's take a look. This is from the Economist. It's from the Economist, a YouGov poll. And basically it's saying that's been a pretty good week for the Republican Party. In other words, the favorable view has risen about 6 points for the Republican Party. And it's risen 15 points for President Trump. In fact, Kevin McCarthy has seen a positive 9-point shift in popularity. And if you take a look from the start of December, you're going to see that President Trump's rise has gone up 20 points and McCarthy's has gone up 16. Overall, the Republican Party's net favorability is 44% favorable, 48% very or somewhat unfavorable, and that's only a minus 3% overall with Americans. It's the highest it's been since Biden took office back in January of 2021. Now, obviously, these numbers were down because of the poor performance of Republicans. I mean, I know they did in certain places, but it wasn't that red wave, that red tsunami that everybody was thinking about. And we've already tackled, what happened in there. But the 2022 midterms did have an effect on bringing down the favorability of the Republican Party, not only amongst Republicans, but amongst Democrats as well. So if we want to take a look at that, you'll see here that here's in red the Republicans, here's blue the Democrats, and as you see here, Republicans right now a plus 70. That's the highest it's been, as they said, since Biden was in office. And if you take a look here, right now, amongst U.S. adult citizens, the favorability, it's minus 3. Now you say it's negative. But you know what, folks? If you take a look back here, we were down at one time, down almost 30 points. That was back in September of 2021. In other words, unfavorable minus 29. Come up almost like you said. So, since that point, over, a year ago, all right, to be -3 at this point, that's a pretty good gain. Now, if you want to take a look here, now just take a look, even amongst Democrats, at one point back in February of 2021, just basically, let's say almost a month into Biden's presidency, it was -85, folks. So, you know what? That was right when the Democrats were obviously, ecstatic. Biden had won the election. Democrats think that they've got everything under control right now. Trump is out, the left is in. We're going to get all our things done. It's going to be great. Things were looking up for the Democrats, obviously, at that time. -85. To be -57 right now, almost 2 years in, that's, pretty good. Now, if you take a look at Trump's popularity amongst Americans overall, net favorability, it's -3. Now, you say it's -3, but folks, it's been even larger than that previously. He was at -22 at the start of December, -22 unfavorable, right? 45% now approve, 48% disapprove. And the Republican ratings of Trump, they had fallen to a low in 2017, but they've bounced back up. In fact, right now, Trump's net favorability, it sits at -55. All right, which, while low from a standpoint, obviously, that's the best it's any point since actually he took office. So if you take a look at, this is Trump's net favorability, right? So right now, amongst Republicans, he's at +62. Overall, amongst U.S. citizens, -3. Now, I know this doesn't take into, registered voters and likely voters. I mean, they're a part of that mix in this Economist YouGov poll. But to be -3 unfavorable, and then take a look here, we said here, -55 for the, within the, amongst Democrats, where at one point, we could go back here to show that he was -94. I mean, you're talking almost 40 points, folks, 40 points in a little over a year. That's a huge, huge shift. And that should be looking very well, at least the snapshot in point at this time, in January of 2023. And the same thing can be said here if you take a look at McCarthy. I mean, he's at +36 with Republicans, and he was languishing right at about, right at the 0 level. And now he's +36. And where do you see most Americans? View McCarthy, -2, unfavorable. I mean, for where he was at to where he's at now, that's not bad. And then if you take a look amongst Democrats, where at one time -54 was a low, another year's a -53, to be right now at -28, it's looking really, really good. And I think the reason, especially for Trump, and we're going to go to this right now, and I think the reason for this is, folks, is that we had seen that Trump had put out some policy statements, things that he was going to go after, things that he has promised to say that in his next term, when he becomes president, what he'd like to do. And one of those policy plans was that to basically have a free speech plan. In other words, something that was just going to obliterate the left-wing censorships and to reclaim the free speech right, for all Americans. He also talked about a vision. Now, this is something that he talked about in his first term, never was quite able to get it. And I think he really should have, gone after this even more. I think this is crucial, and that is to revise Section 230 of the Communications Decency Act and basically have a cooling off period. In other words, that former employees of the FBI, the CIA, and other government agencies, the Department of Defense, anything, if you're working in government, you would have to wait 7 years before you join any tech companies. I think that should be raised. I think that should be 15. and then you can negotiate from there, but start at a high number. Go for 20 and work your way down. I think 7 is still too large. Don't want to throw my cards on the table, but if I was a policy, I start at 20 and definitely be somewhere above 7. But 7, all right, it's someplace to start. That will prevent what was going on where you saw people like Clapper and all the others, the FBI, the CIA directive, all of these people, okay, just going to CNBC, going to CNN, going to NBC and ABC and all the alphabet and the Google networks and whatever, and just spreading disinformation out there. And these were people, obviously, I mean, you're talking, okay, the head of the CIA, head of the Department of Justice, head of the FBI, and just making claims and basically saying that I have this information, what I'm saying is true, and it was all disinformation, it was all lies, and we know what that happened. It basically put the country for 3, 4 years, every single day, being attacked by these people, the presidency, President Trump himself, friends, colleagues, people in the Republican Party. And again, that disinformation campaign that occurred, we all know what it was: Russia, Ukraine, everything in terms of the Hunter Biden story, all of that. And they just said it was completely false, all disinformation. And now we've come to know that everything that was said about that was completely true. And these people were completely lying and spreading disinformation lies all over the place. So I think establishing, like he also talks about, a digital bill of rights, that resonates with people. It really does. Another plan that Trump pledged was, and I think this has really been something that sort of helped his numbers, is to wage war on the drug cartels in the same way that he fought ISIS and basically put ISIS at least in a position in a very where he's basically, let's just say, gotten rid of most of the higher elements of ISIS. I know there's pockets of them that are still out there, but nothing to the extent that they were during the Obama monarchy, at all. And to obliterate, these Mexican cartels and drug pins or whatever. He also, as we were talking about with that thing, his vision of how to limit China and what needs to be done to bring China to its knees economically, foreign policy wise, and just allow China to operate within its own domain instead of this expansionist policy that China basically is on course for and wants to continue to do. So these are some of the things I think in terms of, and just to talk about the Chinese thing again, he's basically saying to enact restrictions on Chinese ownership of vital infrastructure in the United States in terms of energy, technology, telecommunications, farmland, natural resources. Why should we allow foreign Chinese companies, foreign Chinese entities to come in and become owners of this and limit the ability of the United States of America by basically compromising our positions in terms of our infrastructure, our land, development, new technology, new ideas. I mean, all this intellectual property, all this is going to the Chinese right now. This needs to stop. And it needs to stop by not allowing companies and not allowing, China to utilize their vast resources to buy into basically American American companies, American lands, American technology, all of that. And it's going to be a balancing act. But if there's a policy that can become, that's formulated, can allow that to happen, that would be absolutely great for the United States of America. Because China is the country that's going to be the formidable adversary of the United States going forward. I know they want to say it's Russia, 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 but it's not. It's China, China, China. Anyways, folks, we appreciate you taking the time to watch. Hope this sort of gave you at least a picture of what the poll sort of looked like at this point. It's just one poll, but it is showing a very favorable picture, a snapshot in time of President Trump right now in January of 2023. Let's just see as the numbers continue to climb. And there's going to be other polls out there. They're going to show complete opposites. That's true. We're going to talk about those as well and see if they're making sense or if they're just, putting them out there for disinformation purposes once again, and opinion shaping that's going to be coming from the left and the progressives and the alphabet media. But we'll take that one at a time as they come through. So, as I said before, thanks for watching. And you've been watching the Dr. Nasir Sheikh Show. If you haven't already done so, please subscribe to the channel, like, share, and follow us. Hit that notification bell. I've been your guest host. My name is Dr. Nasir, and I'll leave you with my final thoughts, which are when you're right, you're right. And when you're left, you're wrong. We'll see you again next time, folks. Take care and stay safe.